You all right? How are you this morning? It has just turned 8 in the AM, Greenwich Mean Time, on Friday, the 23rd of January, in the year of our Lord 2026. I'm joined by my producer, as always, Little Harry. How are you, Harry?
Morning. Yeah, I'm good.
Good, good. Okay, one tiny bit of housekeeping. Anyone noticed yesterday at the top of the show, the end of the show, I completely failed to read Super Chats. So sorry for that. I'll try not to do that again. I've got Harry on standby to remind me if I look like I'm going to do that again. Just completely forgot. Sorry. Apologies. We should try not to do that again. Very much so. All right, I think that's all the housekeeping, really. Oh, we've got a poll up. We're asking, aren't we, Harry? Is Andy Burnham going to be the MP? Do you think Andy Burnham will be Prime Minister? Something like that. I'm leaving the wording up to you. Have we got that live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in the chat, if you're watching this live, if you're part of the glorious band, the chosen few, you watch this live, Breakfast with Beau show, have a vote on that. Why not? It doesn't cost you anything, does it? Do you think Andy Burnham will be PM? And I shall tell you my thoughts and feelings as we go through, because that is in the news this morning in Britain, in the print media. Okay, then, let's dive straight in. What is the world talking about? What is the legacy corporate mainstream media talking about today? What's the world talking about? All right, Zelensky's fiery Davos speech and Operation Stop Burnham. Cleverly disguised code name for that operation. Operation Stop Burnham. All right, the BBC start us off with The Guardian. The Guardian. God. All right. Stand up for yourselves, Zelensky tells Europe in fiery Davos speech. Shut up, mate. Take no advice from you. Weirdo little hand-picked goblin man. Hand-picked from being a TV comedian to LARPing as the president of Ukraine. Haven't we done enough? What more do you want? Yeah, he had a pop at us. He had a little speech. And he was moaning that it was Groundhog Day, that Europe talks big, but nothing ever happens. Nothing's really happened since this time last year. What do you want? How many more billions do you want? How much more political support do you need? You've lost on the battlefield. That's it. What you want? You want France and Germany and Britain to just send loads and loads of men and tanks to fight Russia in the Donbass. Is that what you want? When are you going to have elections again, Zelensky? When's that happening? Cheeky little so-and-so. Just get that war ended. Whenever I throw shade at Zelensky, which I've done consistently since day one, it's the most corrupt government in the world. That whole government is a joke government. People accuse me sometimes of being pro-Russia. I'm not pro-Russia, not pro-Russia at all. Putin's a psycho killer. He just assassinates his enemies and things all the time. I'm no fan of Putin. Don't ask me to fanboy Ukraine. Come on, just end that war. Thousands and thousands and thousands of men on both sides dying every month. Just end the war, for God's sakes. Anyway, what else we got? Hunger and uncertainty in Syrian camp for ISIS families. Shame, isn't it? PM's allies begin Stop Burnham campaign. Here we go. Straight into the news. Here we go. All right, so Andy Burnham, if anyone who's really young or perhaps foreign might not know Andy Burnham, he's been around politics for yonks. He was in the government back in the Blair years, wasn't he? He's been around, he's been in and around the top of government, the Labour Party, he's Labour, for years and years and years and years. I don't like him particularly. Like, there's worse Labour MPs, more annoying, more socialist than him, right? Somebody like Jeremy Corbyn. Actually, Jeremy Corbyn isn't a Labour MP anymore, is he? But he's an independent. But, people like that are much worse. Like, I hate Emily Thornberry more, for example. There's worse people. He has got a little bit of charisma. I've got to give him that. Andy Burnham. I hate his politics. I don't really like the man, but he speaks well and he has got a bit of charisma, right? You can't deny it, right? Okay. So at the moment, he was in and around the Blair and the Brown governments for years and years, but he's mayor of Manchester at the moment. And there's all sorts of talk that he could become Prime Minister. Now, I think it's a crazy long shot. There's a bit of news a bit of breaking news yesterday that we'll talk about this morning, which does shorten those odds a little bit in my mind, but only a little bit. It's still a long sort of, in my mind, in my opinion, a long tenuous road. Loads of different events and dominoes would have to fall for Andy Burnham to actually end up in number 10. I don't think it's very likely. Could happen, but I don't see it. So, all right, he's the mayor of Manchester at the moment. In order to be Prime Minister in the Commons, you will have to be a Member of Parliament. There's no other way about that. You'd have to be a Member of Parliament. And as Mayor of Manchester, he's not a Member of Parliament. He has been. Okay, so he'd have to resign his mayoralship. Is that how you say that? He'd have to resign being the Mayor of Manchester, which would trigger a new mayoral election for Manchester. Then stand to be an MP, win that. Then, and only then, can he start in earnest some sort of internal political coup d'etat against Sir Queer. So it's all a bit of a long shot, really. The biggest obstacle in his way was that one of becoming a Labour MP, because you can only do that at a general election. And he'd need to do it before the next general election if he wants to be Prime Minister, because Labour will lose the next general election. Still follow me? Everyone follow me? It's not too complicated, is it? There is one other way you can become an MP, though, before a general election, and that is if a by-election is called, i.e. a sitting MP, either dies or just steps down, or is so disgraced that he steps down, or has got so bad health that they have to step down, something like that. Well, that was unlikely. It would have to be a safe Labour seat, wouldn't it? It would have to be somewhere where Labour would, if a by-election was triggered, that Labour were sort of almost certainly sure to win it. Andy Burnham's not going to risk everything. He's not going to risk giving up being mayor to, run in a by-election to then lose. That defeats the whole point of everything, doesn't it? So it's got to be a safe Labour seat. And the other stipulation that Burnham himself had, that it would have to be in Manchester, in the Greater Manchester region, because he is the King of the North, the so-called King of the North. He's a Manchester lad. He hasn't got a very strong Manchester accent, actually. But anyway, he's a Manchester person. That's his territory. So if he was going to do this, he really wanted, or sort of insisted, that it would have to be somewhere in the Manchester or the Greater Manchester region. All right. So it's been the case. That's sort of the first domino that would have to fall for Burnham to be in number 10. And it just wasn't looking, it just wasn't happening. Right? All the safe Labour seats, all the safe Labour MPs in and around the Greater Manchester region. What, you want me to just destroy my own political career so Andy Burnham can have a long shot at beating Sir Keir, only to lose at the next general election? I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? However, and this is the breaking news. Breaking news. There is sort of exactly that has happened, basically. There's a guy in the relatively safe Labour seat, majority of 13,000, so relatively safe, getting on to being able to say that's a safe seat. I wouldn't call that super safe, because you never know what reform might pull out of the hat and how unpopular Labour are. But anyway, majority of about 13,000 at the last election. And this guy, he was a minor shadow minister. His name's Andrew Gwynn. So relatively safe Labour seat in the Manchester area. And he was disgraced. His story broke, I think it was either at the end of 2024 or last year, not that long ago. It was found that this Andrew Gwynn, Labour MP, just said some really, really bad taste things in a WhatsApp group. So bad that it wasn't criminal stuff. He wasn't sharing anything dodgy and saying actual criminal things like Hugh Edwards level WhatsApp stuff. It wasn't that. But it was in such bad taste that Labour sort of removed him from being a Labour MP. Now he's an independent. At this moment, he stands as an independent MP. What did he say, you ask? In that WhatsApp stuff? A couple of things. It was just what was it? There was some old constituent, a normal member of the public, one of his constituents, who's this old 72-year-old lady that he found annoying. And he said, in what he thought was a private WhatsApp group with other Labour councillors and stuff, he said something like, don't sue me, but it was something like, I hope she gets mowed down by a car. Something like that, he said. Obviously, I don't think he really meant it. I don't think he actually wishes her death. He just said it. It was stuff like that. It's pretty bad. So you shouldn't say that stuff. We definitely shouldn't say it in public if you're a Labour MP. Probably best not to say it even in private, or if you're not sure if the group is 100% secure. There's stuff like that. Or at one point, he said I don't know who it was, I don't know. He said somebody's name was, quote, too Jewish. So, Labour couldn't possibly have anyone speaking in such bad taste. So they got rid of him as an MP. But he hasn't stood down, triggering a by-election. He's just continuing on. But the breaking news is that he's now decided on health grounds that he is going to step down and trigger a by-election. His GP has said to him, it's probably not good for your health. It's probably not safe for your health if you continue on. It's such a stressful job, and continuing on to the next general election is not in the best interests of your health. I advise that you stand down. Okay, so there's all that. Whether you accept that health angle is sort of real or just completely contrived, far be it from me to suggest it's completely contrived. But the net result is Andy Burnham's got what he wants, right? A relatively pretty safe Labour seat in the Manchester area. Guy is stepping down. Andy Burnham could step in there suddenly, and it could all happen relatively quickly, within 21 to 27 working days. So, that's working days, so 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. Suddenly, Mr. Andy Burnham could be a Member of Parliament. And then the fun and games can really begin. Then all the backroom shenanigans can really begin. Right, so, at this point, this Andrew Gwynn has made all these statements saying that's what he intends to do. So at this point, on the morning of Friday the 23rd, the ball's sort of in Andy Burnham's court to sort of officially make the statement, come out, and say, I resign the office of Mayor of Manchester, and I intend to run for this by-election in Manchester. There's more to it, though, because it is complicated, or not complicated, it's difficult for Andy Burnham to get to number 10, because he can't just immediately stand for this by-election for Labour. The Labour Party themselves have to green-light it, right? That's how it works. That's how every MP, unless you're an independent, that's how it works. The party has to formally select you, right? That's the biggest obstacle to becoming a Member of Parliament, is getting a party to select you. Right? The party gets to choose who they put forward and who they don't. Okay? Right, so for example, like Eddie Izzard, the famous comedian, in inverted commas, wanted to run for the Labour Party. And even though he's famous and got name recognition, right, it's a household name, Eddie Izzard, right? Something approaching an A-lister, or B-lister. Used to be a B-lister. Anyway, household name, famous person. Even he couldn't get selected for the Labour Party. They're like, no, I don't think so. Right, so that's the whole ball game, is getting selected. And even Andy Burnham himself, again, sort of a household name, one of the most well-known politicians going back years and years and years, it's not a given that the Labour Party will select him at all, because they know, Andy Burnham's been relatively honest about it, they know that it's all machinations to ultimately challenge Sir Keir Starlin for the top job. So, before Andy Burnham can even stand, before he can even let the people of Manchester, small area of Manchester, before they can even let them vote for him, He has to win some sort of internal struggle, some sort of internal battle within the Labour Party to get himself selected. So the body within the Labour Party that does that, controls all of that, is called the National Executive Committee, I believe. And all parties will have some sort of similar body. Well, not all of them, actually. Like Reform doesn't. Reform, it's just up to the top brass. It's just up to Nige, basically. So different parties are a bit different. But anyway, the Labour Party have got this committee. Now, so is this committee pro-Burnham or are they anti-Burnham? Are they pro-Starmer or not pro-Starmer? Because if they say no, it's a no. And Andy Burnham, you would imagine, would want to know what they're going to say, would want to know their thoughts and feelings before he, resigns being the mayor. Because that would be a waste, wouldn't it? That would be flushing his own political career, for what it's worth, down the toilet for nothing, if it's just going to be immediately a no from the National Executive Committee. So that's sort of where we are. And people on the inside, I've got no personal insight into the runnings of the Labour National Executive Committee, but people that know, journalists and all that sort of thing, professional journalists, they say it's broadly pro-Starmer, but not like staunchly 100%, 95% pro-Starmer, though. So there will be a split. I imagine today, going forward, from this point onwards, since this Andrew Gwynn is saying he's going to step down, that there will be all sorts of internal wranglings within the Labour Party, certainly at least within that National Executive Committee. Starmer and all his allies, well, that's the headline there, PM's allies begin Stop Burnham campaign. That's what it is. There'll be all his allies, Starmer's allies, trying to put as much pressure, you can only imagine, on that committee to block Burnham. Cut it off there. Just end Burnham's ambition right there. Nip it in the bud. And, conversely, of course, all Andy Burnham's people, and he's got a big following in the Labour Party, right? It's not completely insane. He's not just fancy from him, that he just dreams of coming back and becoming and successfully cooing Starmer. He has got a big following in the Labour Party. Like loads of MPs are like, we want Burnham. We don't like Starmer. Get him out quick. So there'll be some sort of internal war there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. If, and it is a big if, I guess, I really don't know. I guess it's like 50-50. I guess it hangs in the balance. But if Andy Burnham is able to get the nod from the National Executive Committee, Labour's National Executive Committee, and is formally selected to stand in this by-election, and then he wins, it'd be hilarious if he didn't win, wouldn't it? Because at the last election, the winner, that Andrew Gwynn, he got 18,000 votes, and the second place got 5,000 and something odd votes, and it was Reform. And the Greens came in third with 4,000 and something. So, as I say, a majority of 13,000, pretty safe, but not completely safe. 13,000 has been overturned at the general election and by-elections before. Labour is deeply unpopular, isn't it? Deeply unpopular. It would be funny if Andy Burnham got selected, ran and lost. And of course he's not mayor anymore. And then they do the Manchester mayoral election, which would be triggered by Andy Burnham leaving the office. And then if Labour lost that as well, I think that's much more unlikely. I think Manchester is set to return whoever Labour put forward for that. Might be wrong. But that would be funny if Andy Burnham goes for it, loses the by-election, and then Labour lose the mayoral seat as well. That would be so funny to me. If Reform picked up both of those. But anyway, say all that happens. Say Andy Burnham gets elected, runs and wins. Okay, now he's a member of Parliament at that point. And that could happen in the next 2 months, maybe. At that point, then there will be a real sort of civil war inside Labour, at least the parliamentary Labour Party. Then it's on. Then it's real. S just got real for Starmer, if that happens. And then imagine if there was Andy Burnham and all his supporters and his cabal were able to, trigger some sort of vote of no confidence and various things. There's a couple of different ways to skin a cat on that side of it. And then, and then Starmer was his own party. Like the way it would play out differently because it's a different thing. But the way the Conservative Party cooed Boris. And then the way they cooed Liz Truss. That Labour do that to Starmer. And then we've suddenly got Andy Burnham as the Prime Minister that no one voted for. Well, other than that small constituency in Manchester. The public never had a choice to whether they wanted Andy Burnham as the leader of government, the head of government. Could happen. I still think it's a long shot. I still think all of that is, just in my mind, a bit of a long shot. Like if someone said, would you put 20 quid on it? I wouldn't. Unless you gave me good odds. If you gave me 10 to 1 odds, I might think about putting 20 quid on it. 50 to 1 odds, I'd probably put 20 quid on it. I just think it's still all just too much for a long shot. But there you go. Okay, so hopefully I've explained that. What else have we got today then? Oh yeah, Zelenskyy turns on Europe. You're all talk and no action. You're not a good wartime leader. You're a weirdo little puppet man. I got a laugh from Harry. I don't know if my mic picked that up. After meeting new Board of Peace boss, the new Board of Peace boss, Donald Trump, who promises Ukraine settlement is, quote, coming soon, quote, Zelenskyy savages Europe as, quote, salad of small powers that loves talking about the future but avoids action, end quote. Yeah, all right, mate. Isn't your government objectively the most corrupt government in the world? Sorry, how many more billions? Hundreds of billions? Hundreds of billions. How much more do you need? What do you want? What do you want? You want the young men, the flower of Western European youth, to be sent into your meat grinder for the Donbass. No thanks. Pass. Thanks, Zelenskyy. Thank you. The FT, the Financial Times. Musk's SpaceX meets big Wall Street banks to line up record-breaking IPO. Like it's going to go on the stock market and you can buy stock. You can buy shares in SpaceX. That'd be cool. I'd see if I could get one of those. Who knows what it would look like. Whether it'd actually be open to like the complete public, normal people to buy shares in it. I don't know, but we shall see. If it is, and it's not that type of stock where it's like 12 grand for one share. If it's like a reasonable price and it's open to the public, I might get a little bit, like just purely as a token, just purely as a, literally like 50 quid's worth or something. But just so it makes watching SpaceX launches that little bit more interesting. Like, yeah, here you go, I've got an actual interest in this. All right. Starmer's allies plot to block Burnham from staging a Westminster comeback. Yeah, I bet they are. I bet today, behind the scenes, or even perhaps not even so much behind the scenes, probably spill out into like the open. They're doing everything they can to prevent that from happening. Well, they will be. Because in the stakes of Burnham versus Starmer, Burnham's like an actual player. As I say, essentially a household name. Vast majority of people that are even remotely politically aware will know of and heard of Burnham and probably not entirely hate his guts, which is a worry for Starmer because everyone hates Starmer's guts, basically everyone. It's like the least popular Prime Minister of all time, isn't it? Going back centuries, going back to Robert Walpole, Starmer's the least popular Prime Minister of all time. All right, the Times, the venerable Times. Number 10 may water down special needs reform on rebellion fears. Well, that's all the government seems to do at the moment, isn't it? Is to U-turn because of rebellion fears. That's the classic thing, because Labour's got a massive majority, hasn't it? In Parliament, I mean. Massive majority. There's loads more Labour MPs than any others. Loads more. And so, it's your own backbenchers that become sort of really the effective opposition, in a way. Of course, the opposition are the Conservatives and Olukemi Badenoch. But Starmer doesn't really need to listen to her, particularly, because she can't really hurt him politically in a direct sense, right? She can make him look stupid in the court of public opinion, but in Parliament, she can't really hurt him. She hasn't got much leverage against him in Parliament. If Starmer can get the whip to make all the Labour MPs do what he wants, he wins every time. That's what having a big majority in Parliament means. But if he can't do that, if he can't corral all his own cats, if his own backbenchers don't do what he wants and what the whip tells them to do, then they, as a bloc, have got leverage over him. Right? He can't get done what he wants done because they're refusing to fall in line. So, in essence, effectively, right, they become the opposition. Right? They're the ones holding him in check. So you might see, why is Labour doing so many U-turns? Why does Starmer get word from his own backbenchers and then suddenly do something else? And it makes him look terribly weak. Because they've got the whip hand. Or if there is any sort of whip hand over him, politically, in Parliament, it's them. So that's just the way it is. That's just the way it works, right? Starmer's allies to bar the return of Burnham. If they can, we shall see. It might all just be cut off, nipped in the bud at this stage. We shall see. Trump. NATO troops avoided front line in Afghanistan. Yeah, this is in the news today. So Trump made a comment saying that NATO forces in Afghanistan avoided the front line. I must admit, it's a bit of a cruddy statement. I don't think that's particularly true. I know quite a lot about the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, read a couple of books around this topic, and I've, of course, lived through it my entire adult life. I was already like 20 years old, or whatever, in 2001, already grown up, watching the news and TV, so it's been my whole life. Particularly Britain as well. I mean, we sent over most troops after the United States. The vast majority of it was the United States, right? 2/3. I think 2/3 or even 3/4. The vast majority of all troops and things in Afghanistan was the US. But the UK, under the NATO umbrella, was like the second biggest deployment. And we had responsibility for like a vast swathe of southern Afghanistan, the Helmand province, right? We had a few hundred guys die, over 400 British boys died there, and loads more wounded and injured, right? So to say we avoided the front lines, I mean, bit out of order. Although, of course, Trump, people who suffer from real TDS, people that despise Trump at every turn, are always looking for anything to jump on that he says. Somebody like Emily Thornberry was saying, you know, it's an insult to the sacrifice we made. I mean, I don't go that far. It was sort of an aside, he was saying. And in some limited senses, very limited senses, don't get me wrong on this point, some very limited senses, there's something to what he said in the fact that some of the other NATO nations, not the UK, some of the other NATO nations really just did supporting roles. And then towards the end of the 20-odd year long deployment out there, we sort of started turtling up and just staying within air bases and things a bit. So if that's what Trump's talking about, if that's what Trump means, then there's something to what he's saying. But nonetheless, I still just think, because it's not really clear exactly what he meant by that. If you asked him to clarify, what do you mean? At what point in the 20-long-year Afghan campaign are you talking about, and which countries are you referring to? There was no clarity on any of that. So if you just take him at his words, the one sentence he said does seem a bit like, yeah, I can't really, it's not particularly fair, Donald, to have said that, but there you go. Okay, the Trump enemies jumping on that as though he's insulting the war dead. I don't think he really was. It's not That's an exaggeration for me to say that he's like insulting men that made the ultimate sacrifice in Afghanistan. It wasn't. It's not quite that, is it? You've exaggerated it a bit there. All right. The Eye paper, Operation Stop Burnham. PM's allies tried to block return of his rival. Yeah, they will be. They will do. Starmer loyalists will try to prevent Andy Burnham from returning to Westminster because they fear he will stage a leadership challenge against the Prime Minister. Yeah, I think Burnham and Burnham allies have been really quite clear that if he does become an MP, he is going to attempt that. PM known to be anxious about Burnham comeback. Yeah, Burnham's more popular in the public. I mean, in the widest sense, in households up and down the country. I think it's fair to say Burnham is more popular. So Sir Queer should be anxious. Door opens for Manchester Mayor to re-enter the House of Commons after the local MP retires, in inverted commas. It's not in inverted commas. I would put that in inverted. Retires. Really? You're retiring on health. Okay, all right. But Labour ruling body is likely to block Burnham from standing. So there you go. The Eye papers say that he's likely, that was their words, he's likely to be blocked. Okay. Starmer ally tells the Eye paper, quote, "We don't need an Andy Burnham circus, which will only divert resources, manpower and money away from vital council elections." Well, that's obviously just like the pro-Starmer line, isn't it? That's it says Starmer ally says that. Of course they'd say something like that. They'll use every argument in the book why it's not good to have Burnham back. They'll use every argument. They'll scrape the bottom of the barrel if they need to. Any attempt to stop so-called King of the North from standing for Parliament would divide Labour Party. Yeah, it would. You'd totally rip them in half. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I'd like to see that. Thing is, just say one other point on this before we move on. It's all a bit of a moot point ultimately, isn't it? Because at the next general election, if polls are to be believed, at the next general election, Labour will lose anyway, regardless of if Burnham's in number 10. Imagine Burnham does all this, all the dominoes fall in the right order perfectly for Burnham. Burnham becomes Prime Minister. I don't think he can turn around the Labour government in the next 3 years. Or he'd probably have less, well, he'd have less than that, wouldn't he? He'd have like 2.5 years by that point, by the time he's in number 10. All that would take quite a while to play out. He's got like 2.5 years, just shy of 3 years, whatever, to then become more popular than Reform. He's going to lose anyway. Labour's going to lose anyway. So it's all a bit rearranging the deck chairs on the sinking Titanic, isn't it? Who knows? Maybe Burnham could become Prime Minister and then somehow miraculously turn everything around and the whole country fall in love with Burnham and his policies and he wins the next general election. That seems extremely unlikely to me. Okay, take this as a take. As a prediction for the future. If Burnham becomes Prime Minister and then wins the next general election, I'll eat my hat. I don't own a hat. Actually, I do. Yeah, someone sent in a MAGA hat. I'll eat that. Metaphorically, I'm not literally going to eat it. Come on. I just don't see that happening. If you gave me 500 to 1 odds, I still wouldn't bother betting 20 quid on that. That's throwing 20 quid in the sewer. Okay. The Daily Mail. What has the Mail got? Oh, they're going with Beckham. Don't care. On one point saying that apparently Brooklyn's people have been making noises that he might publish a tell-all expose book about the whole thing. The Daily Telegraph. 4.5 million to be denied vote as more polls axed. 2 major Tory-controlled councils given permission to delay local elections in May. Yeah, so here's the thing. It's an ongoing thing, isn't it? That the local elections that are set to happen in May, all the councils, lots of them, I think 30 plus, are just saying, no, we're not going to do those elections. We're not going to do it. We don't have the resource. We don't have all our ducks in a row. We don't have the resources and things to do it. So it's just not going to happen. How is that not a complete perversion of democracy? 4.5 million people denied the vote in local elections. The argument from their side is that, and it's not made up, it's not complete nonsense. I mean, I don't buy it, but it's not complete nonsense, is that there's been all sorts of reforms, all sorts of quite widespread reforms into how local councils are controlled and their boundaries and all sorts of internal boring things that I won't bore you with. And because of that, the councils are saying we can't do the election because all of that has been so disruptive. That's on you. That's on you. Don't cancel elections. Don't prevent 4.5 million people from having their tiny amount of say. We've already got a tiny amount of say. Right? Democracy is already a paper-thin veneer. It's already like barely much of a democracy. And you're going to remove even that, are you? Pack of wrong-uns. And it is because they're all afraid of reform. That the last elections reform did really well, really quite well at the local level. And they all fear, all the Labour and Tory controlled councils all fear that at the next election, whenever that may be, they'll just lose to reform. So in order to give themselves a stay of execution, in order to just give themselves a longer lease of life, they'll just cancel elections. Dirty, cheap trick. Obvious, cheap trick. It's worse than that, isn't it? It's worse than just calling it cheap. It's worse than that. Oh, makes me sick to my stomach, really does. All right. Starmer aid pushes for Hamas to keep their weapons. Sure, why not? Why not? Classic. Why not? PM's allies plot to block Burnham's return to Westminster. Okay, we've done that. The Metro. The Metro. Trump's glitzy Middle East tourist vision. Gaza or Gaga. They go with Trump's idea of, making this board of peace body. Get lots of the world leaders together. And they'll all sort of help Gaza become a peaceful place. Good luck with that. While there's Palestinians there, militant Palestinians, have been raised their whole life to be militant. Good luck with that. But Trump wants to rebuild it, doesn't it? Doesn't he? Like it's a bit of Manhattan real estate. Make all, cutting edge, brand new skyscrapers there and stuff. I do think that is pie in the sky. Might happen. But I think it's fairly pie in the sky, personally. The Star, what slop have they got? The Beckhams, of course. The Sun, what have they got? The Beckhams, of course. The Mirror, the Beckhams. Really? The Express, it's a good paper. Well, Beckham's at the top. And then Britain needs better care for cancer patients. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, sure. Who would disagree with that? All right, let's look at the actual websites. Before we do, let's check in with the poll. We did a poll, didn't we, Harry, about Burnham? Give me the results. Show me the results. Here we go. It's just coming up on my screen now. Any second now.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Oh, okay. Interesting. I thought it might be something like 50-50 again, but 83% of you said Andy Burnham will not become Prime Minister. Interesting. I thought it'd be closer than that. I thought it might even be a small majority if you said he would or might. But 83% of you are saying no. Okay. I mean, that's in line with my view. I just think there's too many long shots. What, there's 4, 5, 6 long shots more behind the scenes, more long shots, isn't it? So, okay, cool. All right, 83%. We broadly agree with each other. Nice. Okay. All right, let's have a look at the websites. Okay. The BBC. Oh, they go with deals being tried to be struck behind the scenes with Ukraine and Russia. Zelenskyy did say yesterday that the sort of the final paperwork on any sort of ceasefire or peace deal is, even Zelenskyy himself was saying, we're very close. It's very close. It's like, what's the hold up, dude? Just get it done. Well, actually, to be fair, the hold up is more on the Russian side. So to be fair there. All right. Ukraine, Russia and US to hold talks with Kremlin, and reports say it's been a useful meeting with Trump's envoys. Okay. Dozens of sanctioned Russian tankers navigate Channel despite UK vow of assertive action. Yeah, if there was to be a real conflict with Russia, between the UK and Russia, the war hawks in our government and defence establishment, they could probably trigger something that way, couldn't they? It's becoming clearer that they could just keep doing more and more and more aggressive things to Russian merchant shipping in the North Sea and in the Channel. Just keep poking the Russian bear until it reacts, until it throws a punch. Okay, fingers crossed none of that happens. Pardon me. Hundreds of illegal waste tips operating in England, including 11 super sites. Yeah, loads of people that aren't native and indigenous to this country, who obviously don't care about it, dump all their rubbish wherever they feel like it. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Blair. Thanks, Cameron. Donald Trump with the NATO Afghan thing. What's this? Something about David Lammy. US President stepped back over Greenland threat because he heard UK's concerns, says Lammy. Yeah, right. David Lammy. Sure. What a cretin. What an absolute cretin of a man David Lammy is. Sort of a bit of a humiliation ritual level thing. That's how much of an embarrassment he is. Like, what can we get away with? What's the dumbest person we could get away with putting in high office? Just as an insult, just as a slap in the face. David Lammy. All right, ITV News, moving on. Okay, moving on. Ukraine staff, have we got anything particularly? I don't think ITV News had anything particularly amazing this morning. Sky News. Zelenskyy, Trump and NATO, all that sort of thing. Mahmood. Oh yeah, number of police forces to be slashed. Tories say. Tory says plan could undermine fight against crime. So it's not that loads and loads of police forces are just going to be abandoned. It's more that at the moment there's something like 43 different police forces around Britain. You know, like you've got Cumbria Police, West Yorkshire Police, Midlands Police, the Met Police. There's like 43 of those. And the idea is that, or the argument is that that's too disjointed, too fragmented, not efficient enough. So let's make just 12 big police forces for the whole country. You make of that what you will, make of that argument what you will. Many people say the argument against that, I think I agree with, is that doesn't necessarily fix anything. That's just like more centralised government control. It doesn't necessarily make anything more efficient or better. Isn't the bottom line that we want police to be able to go after real criminals and catch them? Stop policing people's naughty tweets. Stop knocking on people's door because somebody said they thought they might have prayed in their head near an abortion clinic. You know, all that nonsense. Stop doing all of that and start trying to catch actual burglars and sex criminals. There's an article the week ago or so, saying that the number of actual sex criminals, rapists, the conviction rate for those is tiny. Tiny. Something like 9% of all rapists end up the CPS actually taking it to court, and a smaller number of those actually end up with a conviction. But we're worried about that sort of stuff. I don't care if it's 43 or if it's 12 police forces that get that done. Well, I'm sure most of you out there will agree with me on that one. Right, let's move on. The Daily Mail. Oh, look, Trump's got a big bruise on the back of his hand. Trump explains how he got bruise on his hand at Davos that sparked more health rumours as he teases fourth term. There's a law where you can't have more than 2 terms. After FDR, they did that. All right. Was there anything? And self-aggrandising King of the North Andy Burnham has his chance to take on Starmer if he has the bottle. Yeah, the ball's in his court, really. I'm not sure if he, even though he said he would, said he has, I'm not sure if he really has got the bottle. He's never struck me, Andy Burnham, as like a conviction politician, like a firebrand. He's not that. He's sort of like quite a meek, relatively, sort of weak, humble, fairly softly spoken, trying to be the nicest person you can type lefty politician. That's what he's like. He's not like a bull in a china shop type person. We'll see. We'll see. I imagine that it'll all boil down to, behind the scenes, if he knows he will, if he can, get selected or not. If it looks like he can get selected, he'll go for it. If he will lose that, there's no point going for it, is there? So I guess it'll all boil down to that. And that's all done behind closed doors. All right, The Express. Princess Kate just showed Harry and Meghan again where it all went wrong, i.e. just be normal. Don't be obnoxious. That's your only job as a royal, as a senior royal, is don't be dislikable. Don't be sort of really badly obnoxious. That's your only job. At least in public, put on a smile and pretend you don't resent the whole thing. That's your job. Just that, basically. Anyway, lovely Kate Middleton has always done that job with aplomb, hasn't she? All right. What else? Andrew Bombshell, next move reveal. I don't care about Andrew. Okay. Let's move on. The Sun. What slop is the Sun serving up to us today? Oh, Beckham. All right, Beckham. Beckham stuff. A woman's boobs are too big. That's the news. She's on benefits because her boobs are just too big. What a terrible, terrible problem it is for her. There you go. This was an interesting story, sort of interesting story. In Ecuador, I believe it was in Ecuador, some sort of terrifying masked gunman went onto a football, what looks like a five-a-side pitch, doesn't it? Got everyone just to lay down, and then they just executed, I think, 3 of them. Just shot them in the back of the head, 3 different dudes in Ecuador. It's almost certainly to do with drugs and gangs, isn't it? There you go, worrying. Alrighty then. The New York Slimes. TikTok strikes deal for new US entity ending long legal saga. Yeah, so this is the thing. Back in either last year or in 2024, Congress actually fully passed a bill, a law, saying that TikTok can't operate in the US because it's blatantly just a front for, or controlled by in various ways, the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party. So, and they passed the law. That's it. So TikTok, as an entity, as a company, said, what if we make like a sister company, and it's based in the US, and all the investors and like the people that actually run it are all US people. Basically making a US version of TikTok. Would you allow us to exist in the US at that point? And the US said, yeah, okay. We can't really stop you from doing that unless they pass a new law. And so that's what TikTok's done. That's exactly what TikTok has done. The app's Chinese parent company said it had reached a deal with a group of non-Chinese investors to create a new American TikTok to avoid a ban in the US. There you go. So I'm not on TikTok. I don't think I've ever been on TikTok. I've got no intention of ever creating a TikTok account or anything like that. YouTube Shorts is mind-numbing enough. I waste a bit of time scrolling through YouTube Shorts sometimes. I don't need another crappier version of that in my life. I just don't need it. I've got important things to do and think about and read. Cheers. All right, let's move on. This is the Washington Post. Ex-Iowa school superintendent pleads guilty to falsely claiming US citizenship. Bad luck, pal. Trump dominates Davos, but Canada's Carney was the star. Was he? Was he? The Washington Post? Doubt it. I doubt it. Okay, the Sky News Australia. How good? Yeah, go for your life, mate. We're watching. Donald Trump issues ominous warning to Iran. Oh, yeah, there was one story about Iran, isn't there? That Trump has moved a big part of the fleet, one of the many US fleets, is moving it to the sea just below Iran. Now, if you're one of those people that's dying for like Maya Tusi, someone like that, if you're someone that really, really wants America to get involved, well, this will be music to your ears, because this is how it starts. If that flotilla, armada, whatever you want to call it, fleet, gets there and sort of stays there, looks like it's sort of semi-permanently staying there. And then if the Pentagon and or the State Department and or the White House start saying things like, we're restricting airspace over Iran, then it's sort of on. Then it's like beginning to happen. There you go. So the story is that he is moving a big force. President Donald Trump has announced, quote, a big force of US warships is headed towards Iran, quote, just in case, quote. Just in case. Amid ongoing unrest and killings in the nation. Okay. A story about an individual landlord and their tenant there, don't care. A story about an individual journalist and some sign she saw put up, don't care. Okay. The Japanese, there's nothing of real interest in the Japanese news today, I didn't think. The Chinese, the super dry Chinese news. Xi says China's higher quality development to provide more opportunities for cooperation with Brazil. Fascinating. Interview. China to intensify efforts in quest for higher quality housing, urban rural development, says Minister. Wow. Chinese mainland reaches 2.29 min higher value. Okay. The Russians, what the Ruskies talking about. US must have rights to Greenland's resources as it defends its territory, says J.D. Vance. Yeah, J.D. Vance is one of Trump's point men on it, isn't he? Trump's obviously allowed Vance to sort of be heavily involved in the policy and the whole public-facing element of it all. He went to Greenland, didn't he, like last year, was it? Brussels wants war in Ukraine to continue, says the Hungarian MP. Yeah, weird, isn't it? It's weird. Why would they? How is it in their interests? Kremlin aide highlights Putin's, quote, extremely substantive, quote, meeting with US envoys. Okay. Ground-based robotic systems immune to EW, electronic warfare, when controlled via satellite, says a soldier. There you go. Build Germany, are we interested? I said I'd change the German one, didn't I? I haven't done that yet. I'll do that for next week. Someone on Twitter very kindly, a German person, said, here's another newspaper, like a bit more serious one, but did also remind me that Bild is sort of by far and away the most read, most watched German news organ, so that was interesting to know. I mean, I already know that. Just Google it. It's known, it's famous, right? But it is interesting to have that reconfirmed. So if you want to have your finger on the pulse of what the Germans are thinking, talking about, reading about on any given day, it will be Bild. So maybe I'll have to think about that. I'll think about that over the weekend. It's not like we spend much time on Bild anyway, do we? The French Le Monde says that Le Pen's party and MAGA are getting closer and closer. There you go. Le Monde is sort of not... They're sort of classic corporate legacy mainstream media. They hate the far right. They hate Le Pen for being far right and all that stuff. So Le Pen's the enemy and Trump is sort of the enemy. You know. All right, so we have a look at a little bit of science and or space. What was this? What was one story I saw? Oh, falling space junk can be tracked from its sonic booms. I said, didn't I, yesterday about the possibility, that sort of terrifying nightmare possibility of a knock-on domino effect of space debris hitting other space debris, at least in low Earth orbit, and it just knocks out all the world's satellites in quick order, relatively quick order, and that's sort of a worry. We need to start tracking space junk and making contingency plans to try and prevent something like that happening, and what to do if it did happen. Hulking kangaroo ancestors could hop just like their nimble descendants. There you go. Space news. Let's just get into space. A couple of relatively interesting things I thought here this morning. Space Force's acquisition arm races to rebuild contracting workforce after civilian cuts. And here's a great image. Look at that. What a wonderful image. What a brilliant thing. If anyone's only listening to this, it's a picture of one of Bezos's rockets. But I think it's a fascinating still image. And the headline is, Blue Origin to reuse New Glenn booster on next launch. So even Blue Origin have come round to Mr. Musk's way of thinking that you need reusable rockets, reusable boosters. Because have a once, use and lose type thing is just a terrible economy, false economy. It's just like, why would you do that if you don't have to? Spend millions and millions and millions and millions on a thing, use it once and just let it fall in the ocean and sink to the bottom of the ocean. When you can do things smarter than that. Can't you? If you can master reusable technology, that would make a world of difference. It would revolutionise space travel from an economics point of view. Damaged Shenzhou 20 spacecraft survives re-entry. Shenzhou 23 arrives at spaceport. There you go, like the classic old-looking the Chinese, but classic old-looking, like 1960s, like Apollo era capsule something. All right, let's have a quick look at this day in history as we draw close to 9 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. On this day in history, on the 23rd of January. They've got a fair few Chinese ones here. So in the year 971, the War Elephant Corps of the Southern Han defeated at Shao by crossbow fire from Song Dynasty troops, forcing the Southern Han state to submit to the Song Dynasty. And it was the first regular War Elephant Corps in the Chinese army. Quite interesting, that. Now, I must admit, as a history nerd, I know a fair bit about Chinese history. I've got a few bits of content about Chinese history. I think one among my best bits of epochs content, I would say maybe my top 20, 25 ones ever, out of nearly 250, was a bit of content I did about the first Chinese emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi. Anyone out there who can speak Chinese? How terrible was my pronunciation there? I think Queen is Qin, Shi is Xu, and Huang is like Huang or Huangdi. Qin Shi Huangdi. Anyway, stop embarrassing yourself. Did a bit of content on that, long form bit of content, and I thought it was very interesting. It is very interesting. But he's way back, he's like in the 200s BC, isn't he? Yeah. 200 odd BC. So I must admit, despite being a history nerd and liking Chinese history and reading in and around it for years, it's not one of my fortes though, and certainly not the 10th century. So I can't add much detail or colour to that for you, I'm afraid. Fascinating though it is. Okay, in the year 1368, in a coronation ceremony, Zhu Zhuanghang, aged 40, ascends to the throne of China as the Hongwu Emperor, initiating Ming Dynasty rule over China that lasts for 3 centuries. Again, know a little bit about it. The Ming Dynasty, one of the much more famous dynasties, if anything. But I'm not heavily steeped in 14th century Chinese history, I'm afraid. Okay, in 1555, Shanxi earthquake, the deadliest earthquake recorded, kills 830,000 people in Jiangxi province, China. It's crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Imagine if something like that happened today. 830,000 people in a single earthquake. Incredible thing. Remarkable. In 1950, the Israeli Knesset declares Jerusalem the capital of Israel. In 1973, US President Richard Nixon announces an accord has been reached to end the Vietnam War. Peace with honour. Dick Nixon's peace with honour. Fast forward a couple of years to the last helicopter fleeing from Saigon. Didn't look all that honourable. And dear Richard Nixon, you could have made a deal very, very, very similar to that years earlier. All right, there we go. Let's read a few super chats. Harry, I haven't got the super chats on my screen. Could you bring that up for me? And we'll go through a few super chats. Again, apologies for yesterday, just failing to read them out. Try not to do that. All right, there's a few here, so try and get through them. Grimly O'Golin says, top of the morning to you. I am enjoying the show while having a nice coffee in my breakfast Beau mug. Oh, you've got a breakfast with Beau mug. Top merch, you can buy it on lotuseaters.com, the merch store. Brilliant, thank you for buying the mug. Thank you. Thank you. Best mug I own now, he says. Yeah, it will be. Of course it will be. Mr. Gently Benevolent says, Beau, as the best Spice Girl, yeah, go on, as the best Spice Girl, I implore you to speak to Colgon about moderation. The Islander shilling is getting as bad as the quartering and his crap coffee. Apart from Islander is worth buying. Apart from that, Islander is worth buying. Okay, fair enough. All right. One thing I'll say is that Islander only comes out intermittently, right? I think originally it was supposed to be quarterly, but it's not actually quarterly. So every few months it comes out. And the model is that when it comes out, you sort of shill it hard. For a relatively brief period of time, like a couple of weeks, really. And then you'll notice Islander shilling just stops, falls off a cliff and stops. So, I mean, we kind of got to do it a bit. I get it that sometimes, or often, shilling is annoying. I don't like to do it, personally. That's my honest opinion. But we're a business. We haven't got any millionaire backers. We don't get loads of money from bloody Russia or Israel or whatever people accuse us of. We survive on YouTube revenues, the merch shop, selling the Islander, selling some courses here and there, super chats and stuff like that. So our margins aren't fantastic. So we need to shill stuff. Right? We don't just get loads of money like Channel 4 or the BBC from the government. But I do get it. I do hear you as well. It does sometimes feel a bit excessive, but there we go. We've got to do it. Okay. Krish281 says, isn't the centre of Manchester so filled with violent foreign druggies that Charlie Veitch needs security to stream there? Burnham should be nowhere near power. Yeah, good point. Yeah. No, Manchester, big parts of Manchester are completely captured by foreign peoples. Yep. Has Andy Burnham been part of that problem for like a couple of decades? Yep. Oh, yeah, he's a lefty. He's an open borders, globalist type lefty person. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. He's an enemy of the people, in my opinion. Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay. Estinurs says, what are the odds that Eddie Izzard is a Cockney rhyming candle scounts? I don't want to be prosecuted for defamation or anything, so I'll move on from that, but funny comment nonetheless. Oh God, I always find it hard to read people's names when it's long and there's no... What is it? Okay. Sulivus Victorious 526 says, I don't see Islander on your table. It's treason. Gather troops, martyrs. Boom. Islander magazine. Buy it. There's only a few left. While stocks last. All right. Zajutes149, thank you. They contribute every day, nearly, it seems like. So thank you for doing super chats. Appreciate it. Zajutes149 says, politics is pretty broken in Norway, but at least the country organisations of each party have full control of who is on their election lists. Right. Good, yeah. I don't know a fantastic amount about internal Norway politics, but thank you nonetheless for letting us know and being a big fan of the Beau show. Breakfast with Beau. So Dukes149 again says, for local council mismanagement of funds, look up Norway's Robeck list. Getting on the list means local expenditure will be subject to government approval. That's one way of doing it, yeah, sure. Okay, there's a bigger one here for $50. A cool $50. Jack White 5073, thank you, says, these books I recommend for book club about the Clintons talk about Bill Clinton's financial crimes. Like, for example, when he was still the governor of Arkansas, he willingly looked the other way when drugs were being trafficked through his state. Yeah, good point. I mentioned the other day, didn't I, that I might do one day might do a bit of content about Bill's life. All sorts of scandals going way back, where big-time traffickers would fly aeroplanes over Arkansas and just drop the drugs out of the aeroplane, the light plane, as they went by, and then were picked up by God knows who and ended up God knows where. All on Bill's watch. Quite well documented, this stuff. Like, I'm not making out, I can't be prosecuted for any sort of libel for saying that. It's completely well documented as a matter of record. Bill Clinton. All right, Jack White 5073 says, also says, and some of those drugs were being trafficked through Arkansas by the CIA. Oh yeah, the CIA were connected to it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. By the CIA. And was when the CIA was being run by Bush Senior. Yeah, anyone who doesn't know that George Bush Senior, George W. Bush's father, one-term president, before that was the head of the CIA. Yeah. So were Bill and George Bush Senior, Poppy, were they in cahoots with each other to somehow, behind the scenes, make money on drugs? Don't know. That's only an allegation that they personally benefited from it. Same person, Jack White again, Jack White 5073 says, and that's one of the reasons Bill was able to get away with so many of his crimes, is that when he broke the law, he put himself in the centre of the criminality. I mean, yes, right. Quite possibly. Hiding in plain sight. Hiding in the plainest of sight. I'll run for higher office then, if anything. Like Bibby. I mean, some terrible, terrible criminal problems. I'll run for higher office. Why not? Same person again, Jack White says, so if he turned up dead or mysteriously disappeared, it would just end up bringing down more heat on his potential business partners and associates. Yeah, same person again, Jack White says, it just keeps donating. Okay, says, and question when is Elon going to start building real-life Gundam? I want to pilot the Gundam Fire Sales and Gundam Wing Zero. I'm not sure what Gundam means. Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. But basically, when's Elon going to start doing more stuff? Because Jack White wants to pilot it. I want to be a ship's poet in the first manned mission to Mars. I'll just go there and just wax lyrical about it. That'd be cool. Okay. And finally, Jack White says, the last one of Jack White's, says, I will recommend some series for you guys at the Lotus Eaters, Reacher, Bosch, The Terminal List, Invisible, Person of Interest, Burn Notice, and Mayor of Kingstown. Okay, thank you very much. And the very last one, for 10 Aussie bucks, with no comment, is from Field Marshal Dahl Browning. Hoyt! Field Marshal, thanks for those 10 Aussie bucks. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. You have been part of the chosen band, or the glorious band. A glorious band, the chosen few. Thank you for turning up. Thanks for watching The Beau Show. Breakfast with Beau, the Beau Club. The Beau Show. It is now 9 minutes past 9 in the AM. Greenwich Mean Time on Friday the 23rd of January in the year of our Lord 2026. Try and make the best of the day. Seize it by the scruff of the neck. Get stuff done if you can. You know, seize the day. Carpe diem. As always, try and take care. And until Monday morning, goodbye.